Okay, hey everybody. Just taking care of business here. Passing out some quick requested invites. Gonna be doing Black Widow. Once again, I'm your friend and artist, Brad Linder. I hope everybody's having a happy-go-lucky weekend. I know I am. So, happy Father's Day to you, of all the dads and friends that I've got out there that got the munchkins running around. So, let's see here. Gonna move this over before I get started, get the mouse out of the way. So, we are going with Black Widow today. I know this isn't one of my most detailed drawings, and I apologize for that, but I pulled an all-nighter last night, and I am not making any excuses by any means, but I'm a little jet-lagged, and after a few attempts at this to get it right, to do her justice, I kind of had to suck it up, suffer through it, and make good for you guys, you know. I wanted to do a good job, so I knocked it out, and this is what we got. I know it's not an action shot like we normally want, but it'll do her justice. I won't let you down on it. So, I've got the typical black suit uniform going on here. I kept it very clean, very simple. And being black like this, I'm going to cut all this out anyway and shadow it. And yes, I'm going to do the typical Venom style that I do from my work. I'm going to black this out and make it pop off like you guys like to see. Just adding in a couple of the leather style details. Yeah, I pulled an all-nighter doing some video intro in After Effects, and just, oh man, I wore myself out like no tomorrow. Which you guys will be able to see all that come to fruition here very shortly. I'm doing a bunch of new stuff and adding it on to my pages and whatnot, and getting my blog ready to go and getting that active again so you guys can track me down and find out what's going on. It was just some work that I had to knock out of the way. Boy, I tell you, I am feeling it. It's kicking back now. It is kicking back, but I'm good. I'm here, and we're getting this done. Now, when I draw Black Widow, I know she's supposed to be a more sultry character, and I know a lot of people like to do, you know, the whole Scarlett Johansson knockoff thing and make her really seductive and sultry and whatnot, but I tend to stick with the traditional comic book version where I've made this hybrid, and she's got that sex appeal's definitely there, but I don't go so overkill with it because she's supposed to be a strong female character beyond belief, because she's been Russian raised in the KGB and the Russian Special Forces and Special Ops before she got moved here, and it was a big deal for me to stick with that background because a lot of people don't realize that the Russian and Israeli military are a lot alike in that regard, because they're very more stern and professional in their appearances when they play clean characters and they're in those types of positions. So I know a lot of people in being in a military family and whatnot. I know some people that are actually in those armed forces, and it's just crazy stuff, man. The demeanor is totally different when you meet them in comparison. So they have a maturity about them that you just don't have in a common lifestyle environment. So, and that comes with the discipline of their training and whatnot. I was just talking with a buddy of mine right before I came on about, you know, this character having it out with characters like Black Cat from Marvel, or Catwoman as an example from DC. And the thing is, this character would kill them in a fight between Black Widow and a character like Catwoman, or even more Street Fighter-esque Black Cat. Yeah, no military background, no training, they're done for. There's no hope for it. Hands down, they're going to win that. She's going to win it. No questions asked. But when I draw this character, though, I prefer to draw a 1970s style, but I've made it more contemporary with the hairstyle that goes with my art design. And with the modern movie rendition and whatnot, I bleed that over a little bit. But I still try to keep her just as simple as possible, because this character does all the work for you if you just get the expression right. So if you're trying to create this character and recreate her for your comic work, or, you know, just because you like to draw it, make sure that you pay attention to that. Hey, Tom, Nick, glad you guys made it, man. Jay, I appreciate you coming in, bud. Very cool, man. But, yeah, and I think that's with all military people. My granddad's like that. He's just got a discipline about him. He's cut from a different cloth, you know. It's just a different type of vibe you get from people like that. Very cool influences to have in life. Now I'm going to go overkill it and puff it out here. Now she normally wouldn't wear her hair puffed out like that unless she was going to an event or something where she needed to be dressed up. But I'm going to fill it out just a little bit that way. I just wanted a little fuller hair on her. I'm going to go ahead and draw in the seams here on this cat suit. And without getting too weird about it, I'm going to put in this ribbing here that happens to run right across the center here of her cleavage, and then down into the stomach like that, just where the seams fall, especially on this modern style. With these fabrics and stuff, I love doing this little ribbing and stuff like this. This is phenomenal to me. I love the detail work, and I wish I could have seen the older artists do this. You know, the old guard, as they're called now, with a lot of people. I love to see some of those older artists come back and redo these new renditions and show what's going on with it, because it's just a totally different vibe when their classic art style gets that detailed with the way they draw clothes and things. It's amazing. Blows it right off the page. But we're going to get some detail in here. And I thought I wanted to go gray at first, and like I said, do the whole Venom thing, but I'm not. I'm not going to try and detail this out because I'll just burn it up. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to make the shadows big block shadows and go ahead and knock it out. That way I don't mess this up too much playing around with it, because I know exactly where it's going to go if I try to shade all this in by hand, detailing it out. I'm not going to get the highlights right, and it's going to mess it up. But because I didn't think those out when I designed it. So I'm going to improvise and change up and go ahead and knock that out and go the proper way with it and just black it out. Wally Wood's famous rule: if in doubt, black it out. Todd McFarlane and Rob Liefeld pointed that out in an old, I think it was a Stardust or Star something or other video series that Stan Lee did independently with a bunch of new creators back in the early 90s to give them all props. And they mentioned it in that video. It cracked me up, and it stuck with me. But I knew Wally Wood's old saying about that prior to that, because he used to teach that and just preach that like no tomorrow. He never let up on it. He was always telling people. Now, because of this being the chest here, I'm going to go ahead and just black that out right to the seam, because I don't want it, like I said, I don't want it to get weird. Put in that nice shade right there down at the bottom. And that ribbing will give me a nice highlight. I'll hear about it this evening, because I've got a meeting with a couple of my inkers for Firestorm Comics, and we've got some new books coming out and whatnot, and I guarantee you I'm going to hear it from them this evening. You cheated, you cheated, you should have blacked it out. That doesn't look like leather. I can just hear it now. That's awesome. And her suit has a very flat finish anyway, and doesn't highlight well at all. A lot of people will disagree with that, but I like the old school cat suit, not the new polished one, just because of the fact that I like it the way the light hits it better. But then again, like I said, it is what it is. So, to each their own. Because most people would side highlight this, but I'm not gonna. Just because I want it to stand out. And this being a sketch card like it is, I really want it to get in there and make her pop off. And her be the focus. And a lot of that's not going to happen with this going all different sideways shades. Now, if I went straight to black on this, we could highlight this 10 ways from Sunday and have no problem with it with a marker. But like I said, since I started out this way, I'm going to go ahead and just do it and get it done to give the best advantage for you guys to see what's going on. I'm going to bring my ruler in here to help hold that down. So we're going to gap this out and see how that shading comes off. I like the midriff look, that's neat. Never noticed that before. Okay. I'm going to divide this up to make it look attached. Now, I won't black all of this out whenever I get up to her hair and whatnot. I'll detail that out for you guys so you can get to see something more detailed. But I do love the idea of just blacking this out and leaving the ribbing open, because it's the classic look of the suit. So I'm going to turn this around and get this done, since we're going to go this way. And this is a good lesson for anybody that's out there trying to pencil. I mean, I know a lot of my friends that are watching are artists in the industry and whatnot, and you guys, a lot of you guys are new. And just to give you a little insight on that, if you feel like it doesn't work and you want to change it, don't scold yourself over that. You know, don't beat yourself to death on that and say, you know, I screwed it up, so it's horrible. And then tear it up and throw the drawing away. Don't do that. Improvise. Because I'll tell you, I'm nowhere near that standard, but still learning, maybe one day. But Da Vinci used to talk about in his sketches all the time. That's why he had so many sketches, is because he would get an idea, but he wouldn't throw it away, because he may be able to use that part of something for later in a painting or whatever. It may be a partial that he needs, so he would save everything. And he would also save it to write about it in his journal, which I always thought was cool too. But he used to constantly just redo stuff all the time, and that's one thing that you can follow with the greats like that, is the tradition of, you know, if you have a problem with it, just improvise and move on. That's part of the lesson. As long as you take away something powerful out of it and learn the lesson from it, go with it. You know, that's the way it works. I'm going to sketch in just a little bit of cleavage right there. I don't want too much. I don't want it to be weird and, you know, overworked. But, bunch of moms be covering their kids' heads. Or if you're a dad like me, you may be doing it for your kid as well. So, I'm going to black this in and finish this up. And then we'll get into the cool stuff of the hair and whatnot. I'm going to put that thick undershadow right there to help thicken that up. And if you guys noticed I'm talking a lot more today, it's because everybody keeps asking me to talk more. So, you know, that's why I'm talking more about the process, just trying to get it out there so people can see what I do and what I'm thinking about when I change this stuff up when I'm drawing these for you guys. Because, see, down here in my layout, I'm going to change back to my 7 here. Whenever you do these layouts, right in here, these shells that she's got on her belt, I actually already cut those out. See, they've got a ridge on them already. Whenever I do these layouts, I think about that kind of stuff and go ahead and add that in to where I know these guidelines are set. One goes that way, one goes this way, and then we got the wraparound around the back of her belt. The reason for that is to go ahead and do the cut in and not have to worry about it. I'm going to darken this hair up a little bit in these segments. As long as the card works with me here, because that's a smooth line that needs to be cut out, and it's not wanting to work. It's grinding on me. But that's okay, though. Let it tell you where it wants to go, and if it changes too badly, then that's what an eraser's for. Just going to darken up a few of these to make them pop off and tighten up. I don't want to put in big, thick crayon style lines, you know. I just want to pop them off a little bit, darken them up a little bit. And like this one right here, this ribbon of hair, be sure to, whenever you do crosses like that, don't make it even, because then it'll look like it's just one-sided. Make one side just a little bit thicker, like this one right here is a little bit thicker across, because then what that does is it gives the illusion of that thinning out and turning. Okay, so you get that ribbon effect. So pay attention for that kind of thing when you're drawing, especially in women's hair, because their hair does that naturally, because it's longer and it's got more weight to it, so it wants to curl. So just think about that. I get a lot of questions about that from people. How do you do the ribbons in the hair? Well, I just kind of throw them out there and see where they stick. No. I try to have a purpose with it to make it look anatomically correct with what would go with the flow of whatever the character's got going on. In this case, her hair ribbons out really thick and easy. So, Black Widow, a funny thing about her is she has a more sultry, smaller mouth, kind of like Scarlett Johansson in that regard, which is why I like to see her play the role so well, is because she has, they're thick pouty lips, but the thing is it's more of a closer, you know, more to the nose type of thing. It's a smaller mouth. So keep that in mind when you're drawing these characters, because they have trademarks. They have trademark attributes just like you do when you're looking in the mirror. You know, you've got stuff going on in your face that is uniquely you. Think about that stuff. I have a guy that wanted to put in, it's working with me as an artist, and he wanted some feedback and stuff, and he habitually does these weird things with noses. And I mean, he will put them like way up here, or, you know, over on the side of the cheek, sticking off, And if you ever saw that movie Roxanne with Steve Martin, where he was the fire chief, and it had that big, huge nose on him, he had a prosthetic nose. It just cracks me up because it reminds me of that movie every single time. Okay, we're going to cut in the eyes here, which is apparently has become a trademark of mine, which I'm getting a lot of cool feedback on. Thank you very much, you guys. I appreciate that, about the way I draw eyes. And like I said, I appreciate it. A lot of people have been saying I've got signature eyes on my work now. I was like, well, there's worse things to be known for. Cool. So, I'm going to go ahead and overlap that just a little bit on that forehead so it pops off. And with this one, I think we're going to call that, because I don't want to mess with it too much. Like I said, she's a very specific style of character, and I don't want to muck that up. I'm going to leave that red hair alone. And there we have it. I hope you guys enjoy it. Well, hey man, I appreciate it, Nick. Thanks. I'm getting some feedback on the post here. I appreciate that. Before we go this time, I've got a couple of minutes left. Do you guys want to, I've got about 4 or 5 minutes here. Do you guys want to ask me any questions? I mean, not that this is a training class or anything, because this is a hangout, but I just wanted to know if you guys have any questions for me since we're here. I get a ton of questions offline. That's the reason I'm asking. I'm guessing by the lack of response, we don't have any and we're good. Okay, cool. Well, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me, man. We're going to do another one. Let's see. Because I did Black Widow today instead of Captain America, I wanted to knock that one out by request in the card order. I did switch them up. For those that thought that Captain America was coming today, just wanted to explain that real quick. I switched them up because I wanted to do this one first by request. For a friend of mine, and since I'm doing these, hey, whatever. But tomorrow is the Captain America that we have on schedule that I mentioned yesterday, and we'll knock that out for our Sunday card of the day. And I'm going to color this up tonight and get it moving. Happy Father's Day to you guys if I don't talk to you tomorrow, and we'll go from there. Hey, okay, Tom. Yeah, I can do that, man. Do I use reference poses? No, I don't. I use a lot of reference for the character to get warmed up with it. I will say I use reference for that regard, but I don't necessarily, I just want to make sure a costume is there, but I don't want to use reference poses to specifically answer your question, because what I do is I draw from my head, because if I start using other people's poses, I tend to lean towards their artistic style, and it bleeds over really, really easy for me, and I choke out my natural style doing that. So I've learned a long time ago not to do that. But if you're just starting out and you need to get dynamic poses and such, Google's your friend. Go on there and definitely use it to get references and build up, because I do use character reference all the time. Like before this podcast, I go on and I type in something along the line of the character, pull up a couple images to make sure of what the suit's like and which version I want to go with and whatnot. But yeah, I don't necessarily pull the image itself or the pose itself, because like I said, I don't want to get to the point of cloning someone else's work. So, I mean, that's just a personal thing for me. If you're starting out and you need poses to practice from, definitely go that way, because that's the way I learned as well. But I hope that answers your question for you. But I'm going to wrap it up, folks. I appreciate you hanging out with me, and we are going to see this tomorrow for Captain America. Like I said, it'll be the Father's Day marker. So, cool dude. Too bad he's not a dad, but depending on which universe you look at. But, yeah, we'll go from there. Yeah, you bet, man. I appreciate you hanging out. Later.